Hi, it's Kevin May, the editor-in-chief of PhocusWire in the PhocusWire studio, joined by Mark again. Thank you for joining us. Mark Okerstrom, the president and CEO of the Expedia Group. It's nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
You've joined us the second year running. You've been in the job over a year now, so what I wanted to do, because when we spoke to you last year, you were 6 weeks in or something.
Yeah.
It was a very short time, but now you're a year and 6 weeks in.
Yes.
What's surprised you
Yeah.
and challenged you, do you think? And I asked the same question to Glenn yesterday, Glenn Fogel, because he had been in almost 2 years.
Yes.
I just wanted to see what you think. What surprised and has challenged you now that you've kind of got your feet under the table?
Listen, I think that one of the things that was surprising to me going from being, call it a number two, and having a partner that you were always working with was just that feeling of, hey, now it's you. And you don't need to influence people to have a decision made. You can actually decide things. And with that comes a great amount of responsibility, but it's a very rare feeling.
Okay. Yeah. Would you say that's a challenge or a surprise then?
That's a surprise. I think on the challenge front is that, as soon as you have this moniker of Expedia CEO, suddenly your email volume from the outside goes up by like 100. The demands on your time.
From industry or the great unwashed of the traveling public then?
It's customers, it's industry, it's charities, you're just out there.
Yeah.
And once you're out there, you can't keep up with it. And so you have to be so disciplined about what you spend your time on. I mean, that's the case anyways, but it's just, that on complete steroids. And it wasn't like I was silent and non-visible before, but just the level of visibility it makes you have to be rigorous on time management.
One of the questions that we ask bosses a lot of the time is, how much of your time this is a kind of a follow-on to what you're just saying, how much of your time do you like to keep unscheduled?
Yeah. Ideally, as much as half, but it's very difficult.
Yep.
It's very difficult. And what I do is I go through every 6 months or so, and I go through and I categorize my calendar and say, what have I spent my time on?
Okay.
One-on-ones or business unit reviews, and make sure that I'm reshuffling. And it means that sometimes someone that you've mentored for 12 years, I'm sorry, I can't meet with you for the next 6 months. I'm like, what? And you have to do it. But I do try to keep, a sufficient amount of time free. Now, how long is my day? That's a different question.
How long is your day?
Very long.
Okay, right. We're glad we got that one clear then. Okay, so we've got through some of the fluffy stuff.
Yes.
Now let's get on with some strategy things, for want of a better word. So I was chatting with Jake Fuller earlier, who was running the analysts session first thing this morning. And we got into the discussion about course corrections again. It's something that keeps Wall Street people awake at night, or excites them maybe, depending on what side of the fence they're on.
Yes.
And he was saying that the upper double-digit growth that yourselves and some of your competitors were experiencing, 18-19% growth over a year, has come down a bit, but that seems to have been accepted within Wall Street. That's just one of those things because of the maturity of the market. Yeah. Would you agree with that? And how long can that kind of gradual fall be kind of, if tolerated is the right word?
Listen, I think it's on the journey to be accepted. And we do a lot of explaining around exactly why that is happening. We're being much more disciplined around performance marketing, for example, and there were some times where we would be bidding inefficiently for traffic that would result in room nights where we weren't making that much money or no money on it. And we've just become much more disciplined at cutting that spend out, bringing it down, and that's impacted our room nights. Now, that's not to say that the street loves it. They would love high single-digit room night growth and even higher, high double-digit room night growth and even higher double-digit EBITDA and earnings growth. They want it all. Yep. But I think they're getting used to maybe this is a new reality. And I think for Expedia Group, the goal is to try to ultimately give them what they want, which is both, good solid room night growth and solid profitability growth. And our strategy around customer centricity, locally relevant globally, speeding up the pace of innovation execution is squarely aimed at doing just that.
It's funny you said, being more careful with your digital marketing spend, you still spend extraordinary amounts on money. I mean, one of the questions that I asked Glenn, again, I don't want to ask you both the same questions, but it's one that comes up on earnings calls and in general to kind of discussion is, how long do you think you can maintain that level of spend with somebody that is arguably starting to take more and more away from you?
Yeah.
And Glenn gave me a specific answer. I'm interested in what you say.
Well, I assume you're talking about Google.
I am talking about Google. Unless there's someone else, that would be great.
We speak their name, Voldemort. Listen, I think we actually have a long road ahead of increasing our spend with Google. I mean, we, obviously in markets like the US where we have very strong brands, customers will go to Google, but they'll also type in Expedia.com or Hotels.com or one of our many brands. So we're less reliant on them. But if you just look at how underpenetrated we are into the overall travel market, and just take the hotel properties as an example. I mean, we've got less than 500,000 hotel properties. We know there are around 1 million, maybe 1.5 million. There are auctions in Google for traffic for customers who are looking for those properties right now. And as we go and acquire all these properties, we're going to be entering those auctions. I think that's going to be good for us. I think it's going to be great for Google. So we're mindful of their dominant position in some places of the overall search funnel. We watch very carefully what they do, but we do think we can have a long partnership with them and continue to grow.
Okay, that's good. And what segment of the industry do you think you could be better at?
All.
Okay.
All segments, I think.
Okay, which one are you, out of all of those, do you need to make the most effort in?
Well, we are focused largely right now on the lodging segment, both traditional hotel and expanding our hotel supply and alternative accommodations. That's where we've got obviously a ton of expertise. It is a place where we really add value because it's a quite fragmented industry. So that's where we're squarely focused. But, I think there's lots of opportunities in air, for example, for us to provide better customer experiences and reduce airline costs by helping us actually get both of our call center agents off the phone with one another and actually just start to automate some of this stuff. So we're looking at those types of things, activities we've spoken about. I could go on forever. This is the wonderful thing about this industry and this company is there's many vectors that we can do better on.
Interesting. One of the things that Jake was saying earlier is that there's been a lot of interest this year around tours and activities, and I don't know if he was being skeptical, but he seems to think it's going to be an important sector, but maybe not as perhaps some would believe.
Yes.
Between yourselves and Viator, you had that sector almost to yourselves from an online perspective for a long time.
Yeah.
And now, Booking Holdings has kind of stuck a bigger stake in the ground. It was doing little things. I mean, what's your point of view on tours and activities as a whole, given that you have been in it for a long time?
Yeah.
And what do you need to do to maintain that kind of ground?
Well, I think there's been a big context shift that has enabled just the possibility of the promise of an unlock in that space. I don't think it's ever going to be as big as the hotel business or alternative accommodations, but I do think it's interesting. I think it's worth paying attention to. The big unlock has been largely around mobile device, mobile payments. The fact is that people don't really want to book something in advance unless they know that if they try to book it while they're there, it's not going to be available. So the mobile device allows us to do things in destination, do payments in destination, have QR code or other scanning capabilities so that we don't have to have paper vouchers. And that's a catalyst. And so, we're increasingly focused on it. But we've been in it, as you call it, we've been in it since 1999.
Yeah.
So we know it pretty well.
Right, okay. And just your overall kind of perspective on Meta. So you invested in Trivago a lot of money. And what else in that space kind of interests you? Because, your competitors are saying, I just don't want to talk about him all the time. It just happens that I interviewed him before you. Okay,
that's okay.
You guys get along, I'm
we
sure.
Get along.
But it's interesting. Glenn was saying they just want to be in that element of the funnel.
Yeah.
They find that an important part of their strategies, which is why they've bought into Kayak
Yeah.
and Momondo and
Yes.
G-Flights and now hotels combined,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
Yeah.
Yours investments have been just that one major one in Trivago.
Yes. Well, and we owned TripAdvisor at one point.
Yeah, of course. And
Listen, I think that particularly given the state of development of the overall travel ecosystem, where there isn't one dominant brand, but rather there's multiple brands, where pricing can still be very inconsistent across different providers for even the same property on the same night. I think there is a big value to meta search. And that's why we invested in Trivago. That's why we continue to believe that Trivago has a nice growth path ahead of us. Consumers love it, advertisers love it, and we think it's an important part of the ecosystem. I think if you look out 20 years from now, will there be a need for meta search in a world where we have everything? Probably Booking has everything. And there's a couple of players, and you have to compare against a couple of players. I don't know, but between now and then, there's a lot of runway.
that's 20 years away. This is why you said 20 years. 'Cause that's not forward-looking enough, right? So, I mean, lastly, the theme of this year's conference is the power paradox.
Yes.
And it's about the powerful have got so much power, obviously, but that gives them an awful lot of strength to control relationships and distribution and contracting and everything like that.
Yeah.
But being powerful makes you unwieldy, and you can't, it can leave you still susceptible for being disrupted yourself.
Yes.
One, do you believe that? I'm
Yes.
sure you're going to say yes, but two, what is your inherent weakness then that people could exploit?
So one, I totally agree with you. And there's this old Chinese proverb that says, only take as much ground as you can defend. And so the more spread you become, the more vulnerable you become to someone who's focused on something and doing it very well. So I absolutely agree with that. Our biggest vulnerability has been we have been very spread. And that being spread, doing a ton of things simultaneously, has led to us being, in some cases, out-executed by our many competitors in many places, and it's led to a lot of complexity in our organization. And the journey we started 1 year and 6 weeks ago, I think you said, a healthy dose of that was about focus and doing less and doing it better and building truly better customer experiences wherever we go.
Because otherwise you will become even more vulnerable. do you think?
Yes, absolutely. And absolutely scale has advantages. We've got a massive amount of data. We understand, our data understands exactly who's traveling where, the full travel patterns of the world. So there are scale advantages, absolutely, but there can be disadvantages.
Okay, Mark Okerstrom, thanks for joining us as always. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.